Shavua Tov, Gute Woche. I'd like to tell story number 43 of the Shivchei Baal Shem Tov. The title of the story is Dinim al Ha'ir Sharigrod, Heavenly Judgements on the city of Sharigrod. Continuing with the stories from the last few weeks, it says, and I heard from the Rav of our community, meaning this is Rav Dober of Linitz, who hears from Rav Gedalia of Linitz. He says, Moreino Gedalia, Zichron Libracha, our teacher Gedalia of blessed memory, that many times the above mentioned Rav, the Toldos Yaakov Yosef, as we've been telling his stories the last few weeks, he wanted to go to Eretz HaKodesh, the Holy Land. And he had this feeling he wants to go. And the Baal Shem Tov told him not to go, but to pay attention to a signal. When he feels this desire to go to the Holy Land, the Satan is trying to distract him, to bother him, so he will not pray for the city of Sharigrod. The Baal Shem Tov tells him this will be a signal that when you have the desire to go to the land of Israel, you need to pray for the city. You will know, this is the signal, for sure. Once, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef was going to the Baal Shem Tov. He was the Rav in Rashkov, and he was going to the Baal Shem Tov. And on the way to Mezhebush, he goes through the path, the way goes through Sharigrod. And he was still very angry at the city, at the people of the city. As you remember in story 39, he used to be the Rav of the city of Sharigrod, and he was expelled from the city by the opposers to the teachings of Hasidus, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. So when he became a follower of the Baal Shem Tov and started doing the customs and the practices of the Hasidim, and started to become a true Baal Tshuva, they oppose him and they expel him from the city. And so he now has to pass through this city, and he doesn't want to stop there. He's still upset, and he's on his way to the Baal Shem Tov, but he makes a stop in order for the horses to eat. The horses need to eat, and he makes a stop, but he wants to only stay in the coach, in the carriage, and as soon as the horses are done, just take on and keep going. But as he's having these thoughts, it begins to rain. And so he stops and has to look for a place for refuge, for holding himself from the storm. Now there is a paragraph not in the version that I have, in the edition that I have, but in other editions, and I see it also in the English translation. So not here, that is missing in this version, but makes sense to add it. The story is missing something if we don't add it. So the paragraph says that the rain continues the entire day. Apparently he was in the middle of the week traveling to the Baal Shem Tov to be, with enough time before Shabbat, and he has to stay the whole night. And next day is a Thursday, and again it's raining, and it doesn't let out. So when the Rav sees that the rain is not stopping, he says, maybe it is your will, Hashem, that I will stay here Shabbat, I still hear Shabbos. And then it will stop raining. And then, indeed, stop raining. And now we continue with the story as is in the version that I had. So he spent Shabbos in the city and prayed the entire day. He says that he prayed the entire day of Shabbat, Shabbos, for the sake of the city. And he had to stay there because of the rain. So makes sense adding that paragraph. And then when the Baal Shem Tov saw that the Baal Toldois, that Rabbi Yaakov Yosef was spending Shabbat in the community of Sharigrod, and he knew that this is good for him, and he smiled. And he compared to Anshei Segulato, the people, the closer group of his followers, that the Rav Yaakov Yosef, the Rav of Rashkov, is spending Shabbos, in the community of Sharigrod. He was not yet in Polnoi, so he's the Rav of Sharigrod, right? And the Baal Shem Tov smiled even more. After Shabbat, Rav Yaakov Yosef arrived to the Baal Shem Tov. He was able to leave after Shabbat, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov, and he greeted the Baal Shem Tov with a shalom, with a greeting, and the Baal Shem Tov smiled. And he said to the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbeinu, our Rebbe, why are you smiling? And the Baal Shem Tov tells him, oh, because you spent the holy Shabbat in Sharigrod. The Rav answered, yes, and I missed you. The Baal Shem Tov tells him he says to the Baal Shem Tov that he missed him. He like as a only son misses his father. And he told him that he was forced to stay there because of the rain. And then the Baal Shem Tov answered him, did you think that the Mochiach was lying? Chas v'shalom. The Mochiach of Polnoi, if you remember in that story number 39, he says that he heard a cruz, a heavenly herald, a heavenly announcement that the people of the city, those who hate him, will be condemned to die one way or another. By one was going to be murdered, one was going to die in a. Here they explain in a Mageifa, in a epidemic, and that the city would burn, right? So the Baal Shem Tov says, I was not upset with him. I was upset with him because he revealed the words of the cruz. He said what was said to him. And because of that, I'm not able to nullify that very same Shabbos. I was not able to nullify the decree on heaven. Instead, I can push it off. So the city will not burn all at once. It will burn by parts. One part first, then another part, and another part over time. So the city burns, but not all at once. And those who will die, I will place it for later. And it so happened that the city had several fires. And there's Jewish historians who actually wrote down in what years the fires happened in the city of Sharigrod and how the city burned part by part. But not all at once, so people were able to run to another place and survive, and the city continued. The town continued to exist. Those who were condemned to die in the community of Uman in the time of the Bricha, of the Great Escape. Rachaman al-Islam, may God all-merciful help us. And those who were decreed to die by the Mageifa, by the epidemic, die 2 years after the Bricha. There was a big epidemic and they died there. Those who remember, I also explained in a previous story, in story number 34, there was a big rebellion of the Cossacks, the Haidama Cossacks, 8 years after the passing of the Baal Shem Tov, and these Cossacks massacred Jews in different communities. The worst massacre happened in the city of Uman, where they killed literally thousands of Jews. Many years later, when Rabbi Nachman of Breslev went to the city of Uman, he cried and prayed at the wall of the city for the Jews that had been murdered in that place previously. Then the author of the story, as he's telling this, makes a cheshbon, makes a calculation that he was Rav in Nemerov for about 20 years, and then he was Rav a few years in Rashkov. He's making a cheshbon. How is it that the Baal Shem Tov push forward the death of these Jews for about 20 years? And that is the story. I wanted to tell this story since it connects to two previous stories. So this kind of seals this set of stories on Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polnoy. I am in the process of translating all the stories into Spanish and telling them every Motzei Shabbos. You can come to the channel and hear them. Every video will be given in English and in Spanish. I appreciate any gifts and donations for the efforts of keeping this going, as well as for the future edition and publication of the translation I'm working on of the Shivchei Shem Tov into Spanish. Shavua Tov, a gute Woche.